I think they are going to kill Leia.
What?
Hey guys, welcome to Oddcast, For Nerds by Nerds show. I'm your host, Joe, and today I'd like to welcome you to a new segment I call Where Are We Going? I absorb a lot of material from all over the place. I watch a lot of things, I play a lot of games, I see a lot of stuff, and I don't hold a true connection to any real canon unless it's presented to me as information for the point of a story. As a matter of fact, one of the things that bothers me most with ice cages in movies is when they break the rules that they themselves set. So today, I wanted to talk to you about Obi Wan Kenobi. So, Obi Wan is about to have its 5th episode, which means that we are technically 2 episodes away from the finale, unless, of course, Ewan McGregor wasn't kidding when he said that he hopes that we enjoy episodes 7 and 8, 9 and 10. If there are 4 more parts, which would be interesting to me, it'd be interesting to see where they go with those items. There have been a lot of criticisms about things that have happened in the series, and a lot of them are fair critiques, a lot of them are not so fair critiques. But what I wanted to focus on is actually 2 questions, because in my opinion, it is where we are going. The first one is perhaps the biggest one, and that is...
Somehow Palpatine returned.
How did he come back, Poe? You never explained it. It's just a one-off line. And I totally get it, because at that point, you really didn't have an idea of how he came back.
Probably. But it's an easy fix. One line of dialogue. Thank God we invented the, whatever device.
However, Dave Filoni has done this thing once before. You see, he took arguably the lesser of the 2 trilogies at the time, because now, of course, we have a 3rd trilogy of Star Wars films, and he took them from being this kind of blank, not so great acted, not so great with the lines trilogy, and he turned it into something. And he did it by adding more story. You see, once you've added in Clone Wars and Rebels, it makes the prequel trilogy so much better, because it has developed Anakin's character into something that we can all say, wow, he was a really good Jedi General, and I really root for that character. Also gave us great things like Ahsoka. It gave us the entire Mandalorian conflict. It has mapped out so much more of the universe because it has had time to sit it in there. So, if anybody's going to fix the problem of the sequel trilogy, can Dave Filoni do it?
Can we fix it from the builder? Yes, we can!
However, that's probably a lot more detailed, because in my opinion, the actual hook-line story of The Mandalorian is to fix the sequel trilogy's problems. So, instead I wanted to focus on something that has always bothered me. Just me, probably. But it is a question of how do we get from...
Hello there.
to this.
Hello there.
Obi-Wan takes place 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, which places them roughly 8 to 10 years before the events of Star Wars A New Hope. So, it's really a question of how do we get from Ewan to Alec? How do we get from General Kenobi to crazy old Ben Kenobi living in the desert? How do we get there? Well, I have a couple of theories as to how we could do it. Now, before we get to the more outrageous theory, I want to go over the easier theory. And the easier theory is this. In Star Wars, we have actually seen one character rapidly age and rapidly de-age.
Oh, my back.
It's baby.
It's Scott.
And that character is Emperor Palpatine. You see, in Revenge of the Sith, he ages himself by scarring himself with lightning, rapidly ages his face into this old man and leaves him scarred. Well, you could argue that it makes him an old man. The other example of age changing for Palpatine actually happens in the sequel trilogy. But before we get to that part, let's get to the part that explains and sets up that premise. So, Rey explains her ability to heal that snake thing in the desert and make it her friend. Side note, making an animal a friend is something that Ezra could do. So it's understandable that it's also a force power. Now, force healing has been present in a lot of the video games. I mean, all over the place. It's just something that you can do. However, Rey explains it in this case as this.
I just transferred a bit of life. Force energy from me to him.
You see, she gave part of her life so that that snake thing, whatever it's called, could live. Then, she saves Kylo after stabbing him by giving him part of her life force. And then, Kylo, kind of like Yue,
It gave me life. Maybe I can give it back.
returns the favor back to Rey by giving her back the life that she gave to him so that she could live. However, right before he does that, Palpatine siphons the life force off of them, and this rapidly de-ages him. So, the argument could be made that if you were taking life force from somebody, it makes you young. After all, that's what Hocus Pocus has taught us.
I am beautiful. Boys will love me. We're young. Well, younger. But it's a start.
However, if you return life force, that must mean that you age a little bit. So, Obi Wan Kenobi, let's paint the picture here. We have 2 episodes left to go. We have built up a relationship with young Leia, whom everybody really loves. I am going to hypothesize that they are going to do the unthinkable. I think they are going to kill Leia.
What?
It's a canon-altering thing, after all. If she stays dead, well, that affects everything from that point onwards. However, Obi-Wan was trained by Master Yoda. There's a good shot that maybe once he reconnects with the Force, he'll be able to provide her that life. And if he can't, you know who else has been communing with Master Yoda?
Your old master, Qui-Gon.
Who mastered the art of staying after death. And Yoda is, of course, one of the prevalent Force healers in the Star Wars canon before the extended universe was destroyed, and I'm sure now he'll be somewhat relevant in it. Now, one of the questions that you might have is, but Joe, if there's Force healing and Yoda knows how to do it, why didn't he teach Luke? Well, there's a really good answer for that. Luke left. He didn't complete his training. It's kind of like getting near the doctorate and then saying, you know what, I don't need this. I'm gonna leave. After all, if Aang couldn't enter the Avatar state because he didn't complete his training, then I'm going to postulate that Luke couldn't heal because he hadn't completed that part of his training. And I know what you're thinking, but Joe, there's a time gap between Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back where Luke could have learned it. You're right, he could have. However, Star Wars has also made it part of their canon that not everybody can do everything. Now, Rey and Kylo are, of course, not part of that problem because they could do everything. And that's because they were a diode in the Force, whatever that means. I'm assuming that there will be a prequel trilogy of the last time that a diode occurred so that they can actually map it out and explain it. But that's for another time. My theory is they kill Leia, probably episode 5, maybe episode 6, or if there are 4 more episodes, at some point, Leia gets the axe. She gets killed, and Ben, in a distraught state, brings her back to life. And this rapidly ages him. That is theory 1. Now let's go in to Crazy Town, and let's go down rabbit hole number 2. And rabbit hole number 2 is this. There is only one other way to age somebody in Star Wars, and that is for them to live a long and happy life. After all, let's see how good you look when 950 you are. So, let's propose this instead. We know that at the end of Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka and Sabine go hunting Ezra. And Ezra has gone through, I don't know, the dark portal thing, whatever it's called. The time room, if you would. And that time room connects them all over the place. What if, at the end of Obi-Wan, he goes through said time door and then becomes a Jedi in the background, using the Force to save things, but not altering the overall timeline, unless you introduce another villain who could potentially move through the timeline itself. It'd be an interesting story to tell. I'd totally watch Ewan McGregor go anywhere. I think that it'd be really cool to watch him bounce around the Star Wars stuff and do crazy things in the timeline, but I feel like that would get really sloppy really quickly. So I don't think that that's what they're going to do. So I think they are going to go with the rapid aging due to healing thing. It'd also be a great way to raise the emotional stakes. It fixes a plot hole error. Then all you're left with is, why doesn't she remember him? Well, Obi could force manipulate her into forgetting who he was, or it could be argued that she didn't forget him. She always remembered there was this old man who helped her when she was a kid. She knew him as Ben Kenobi.
I'm here to rescue you. I've got your R2 unit. I'm here with Ben Kenobi.
Ben Kenobi, where is he?
Come on.
Because after all, that's what he said his name was. So she just knew him as Ben. And then, of course, you have A New Hope, where her father sends her to find Obi Wan Kenobi. That's not the name that she knows him by. The old man who saved her, his name was Ben. Now, I know that's only the answer, or at least the theoretical answer, of one of the two questions that I posed at the beginning of the video. However, there's so many breadcrumbs that have been laid for that second answer that I actually want to discuss it in more detail than what I'm going to do right here. So, if you want to see that video when it comes out, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe and the little bell for notifications. And as soon as I drop my next Where Are We Going video, you'll get to see it too. Thanks for joining. Stay safe out there, guys. And as always, have a great one.